I've debated in some capacity for the past 9 years or so, and through all of those years, debate has given me so much. It's given me a job, it's given me amazing friends, it's given me an activity that I've devoted like 10% of my entire life to. And there's a reason, it's been amazing for me, and I've been in a very privileged position in the debate community. So I want to give back. One of the things that debate has given me throughout these past 9 years is just a ton of resources. Like I've found so many different useful websites for learning more debate of different kinds of formats that have been really, really eye-opening and useful in helping me expand the way that I actually think about debate and the way that I have discussions with people about debate as well. And so I wanted to compile all of those into a document because it's sort of hard to find them if you don't know the right people or if you're not looking in the right place. It's taken me so many years to actually find some of the best resources after all. And so I figured I wanted to help out some people who might not have access to those resources just on hand and just put them all in one document. So here we go. This is the PF Handbook. It technically has three parts. The part that I'm explaining right now is just part two, which is a comprehensive list of all of the YouTube channels, websites, documents, and things that have been published that can help you learn debate. It's mostly geared toward public forum, which is why it's called the PF Handbook, but it also has resources from all sorts of different debate events, like different formats, policy, LD, World Schools, BP, APTA, you name it. It's probably in here to at least some degree. And I think the reason why is because all of these things are incredibly useful in learning any kind of debate. After all, debate is debate is debate. I think that sometimes there are kind of unnecessary paradigm wars between different formats and like weird hierarchies. But after all, every format can learn from every other format. And so in that spirit, I've sort of compiled resources from all sorts of other events that I've been able to either do, coach, or witness in here as well. But that's just part two. Part one, I've been working pretty hard on filling one other gap that I've seen in resources because despite so many resources existing for debate and public forum in particular, it doesn't seem like there's any like unified manual of how to do it. Like BP has this, for example, and I think some other debate events have similar things, or at least sort of like blogs that are full of articles, or even, policy, for example, has like literally historical records of like scholarly articles published about how policy works. But PF doesn't really have that. It's a relatively new event and it doesn't really have that many codified norms. You just have to like search through paradigms or have enough experience in the national circuit. And there are so many things that you just have to learn through experience. Like people will tell you eventually if you like go through enough rounds, and you have to learn by making mistakes first. And I think that's kind of unfortunate. So I want to avoid some of that. I want there to be some sort of resource for people who are trying this event for the first time and who have no idea how it's like, because it can definitely defy expectations for newcomers. So in that spirit, the first section of this handbook it's called the handbook, which is something that I've been working on. It's a list of different articles that just explain from the start how public forum debate works and how debate works in general. So the first article, most of the people watching this channel will already be familiar with all of the things in this article. It's just a very basic introduction to what public forum is. Like it's a 2v2 debate event. Here are the speech times, for example, and the kinds of topics that we'll debate. It goes a little bit more in depth. Like I talk about flowing, I talk about cards, I talk about rules of public forum, etc. But it's pretty surface level. It's mostly like what you would get out of watching some of the basic YouTube channels that you might find that are being published about, how to do public forum, or maybe what you would find in a basic guide to how to judge public forum. But that's just the start. I wanted to make sure that this is in context as well, and that it goes beyond just the basics that I think a lot of people have made resources on. So the rest of this is a list of different articles that explain more technical debate. And specifically the kind of debate that I think is more popular on the national circuit and public forum today. So, for example, the second article in this series is about the technical paradigm. And I'm trying to explain pretty in depth how like technical debate works and how it's different from maybe the arguments that you might imagine outside of competitive debate. And I go through a few key differences, like the idea of tabula rasa as a paradigm, limiting judge intervention, things like the necessity of extensions and technically completing an argument, or not having responses, sort of a dropped argument as well. and the constraints that exist on different speeches. And then from there, I just go through all of the things that you might learn in like a basic lab at camp, for example. So things like offense and defense, things like the different structures of arguments, structure of offense, for example. I go through uniqueness, link, internal link, impact. And I'm trying to write this out so that it's like really comprehensive because honestly, I don't know of anywhere that has all of this written, especially some of these concepts that actually are somewhat basic. Like I would hope that most varsity PF debaters who compete on the national circuit know most of this stuff, but it's not like written anywhere. Like you kind of have to like go do work and search for it and ask around. Which is a labor that I don't think people should have to do. And so, in the name of making things a little bit more accessible, maybe, and unifying them together so that you don't have to dig through a million different like forums and Reddit posts and things to find what you're looking for, I've tried to put it all together. And obviously, all of this is somewhat subjective. Different people have different views of how debate actually works. And so I've noted that here. And some people might take issue with some of this or say, oh, that's not actually how this works. I welcome that discourse. If you see anything in here that you disagree with, please comment. And then I can sort of integrate these different interpretations of different things in here. But I think this is a good start, you know. And it is just that. It's just a start right now. As you can see in this comment, I have a lot of other articles to add that go much more advanced. The idea of this is to eventually make it comprehensive enough that it goes beyond what you would learn in like an advanced PF lab at camp. It's not a substitute for going to camp. In fact, I'll put an article at the end about like how you should pick camps and why camp is also useful and how to make the most of it. But I think it should be a good supplement, and it should be enough that if you aren't able to afford camp, for example, if you read through this and you follow the resources that are attached to it, you should be able to learn like basically all of the same stuff that kids who do go to camp are learning, so that it's not so like gate kept anymore. It's not so secret, just like pay to win kind of thing, where you only learn about the secrets of technical debate if you do it for enough time or a high enough level, or if you have a good enough network or enough resources to pay for things like private coaching or a high lab at camp, something like that. Um, so the idea of this is I'll probably release part one in waves. I am jumping the gun a little bit in releasing this video because the PF Handbook is not done. It's been under construction for like a few years now. But I figured that one, this will give me a little bit more motivation if I actually have it published out there. And two, there's no reason for me to just keep sitting on what I do have. What already exists is, I think, already somewhat helpful, especially to beginners. And so I figured I would go ahead and release it to the public now. And then maybe every few weeks or so, I will publish a few extra articles that will go into this first section. And this list here is maybe like a vague idea of what you can expect I'll post um, to start getting into more and more of these advanced topics and trying to explain them top to bottom and really like explain all of the nuances in them instead of just saying like, here's what it is, you know. Um, so yeah, I'm excited to release this, and I'll just give you a little tour of what the rest of the handbook looks like. So part two is external resources. I talked about this at the start. I've organized it into a few different sections. The first one is just like video things, so mostly stuff that I found on YouTube. There are a handful of different lectures and different channels that are angled toward like beginners, just teaching basically the stuff that I put in Article 1 of the handbook, and a little bit more as well. Like Nathaniel Yoon's lectures are great here about collapsing, weighing, and efficiency. And there are also some lectures about things like progressive arguments, but still quite surface level basics. I've also put in PF rounds here. Some of you might know I used to keep up this spreadsheet that's like a chronological list of public forum rounds. I kind of have kept it up on and off. I'm probably going to update it quite soon so that it includes all of the most recent ones. It probably ends at like 2024 right now, and it's probably not even comprehensive for all of the things that have come out in 2024. But it is a list of, oh, I guess, yeah, it does end at 2024. We can see that here. But it is a chronological list of, I think, almost all of the PF rounds that exist on the internet, be it on YouTube or even off of YouTube as well, that are public. And it's organized by chronology, and it also has the topic listed on the side, which should make it easier for people who are digging back into the history, like the archives of videos, looking for maybe a topic that's more relevant to what they might be researching or debating. For example, like if you go all the way back here, maybe you want to learn more about Catalonia. Maybe that's like somehow relevant to your Somaliland arguments because it's also dealing with sort of like the independence of a or like a secessionist movement kind of thing. Then you can just go back here and you can see that that's the topic. So hopefully this is useful. It's not completely updated, but there's always PF videos and a bunch of other channels that are on here as well. Then I have some more advanced PF lectures. So, a shameless plug, I've put my channel in here. And by the way, I do plan to publish a handful of new lectures pretty soon. You should expect a very hefty weighing lecture quite soon that I'm excited about. But also a bunch of other things, like the NDF video lectures are quite good. There's also just some seminars from other camps and other people who have been kind enough to make these kind of more advanced lectures for the community. And then there's a bunch of rounds from other events that might be useful to learn from, and lectures from other events that I think are sort of portable into PF as well. Um, the second part of this second section about external resources is websites. Some of these are pretty dated because I added these like a few years ago and they're no longer as relevant. The wiki certainly is not dated, but things like PF Forward haven't been updated in a long time. But I think you'll find helpful things in here if you click around. And there's a bunch of like weird random documents in here. Here's one of the gems is some of you PFers probably don't know who this is, but this guy Ryan Lafferty is a debater from Dartmouth who just won the world championship in British parliamentary, which is a huge deal. I know that most people in PF are kind of insulated from that community, but it's big. I would recommend that you go watch like some of his speeches. His semifinal speech from Panama Worlds, I think, is a specifically incredible speech. But this is just a work of genius, I would say. This is insane. So for context in British parliamentary, unlike PF and unlike things like policy, they debate motions, which means it's a different topic every round, and you only know about 15 minutes before the round what topic you're going to debate, and you can't do any research in that time, which is such a foreign concept to us PFers. But it makes for really, really interesting debates, and it makes for really, really interesting prep, because how can you possibly prep for a debate event where you don't know what the topic is going to be until 15 minutes before the round? Well, you just prep for any topic at all. And that's what he's done. He has this 520-page document that is just literally notes. Like this is not quotes or anything. It's literally handwritten, not handwritten, but it's literally hand-typed notes about like every single argument you could imagine in debate, period. Which is incredibly useful. Like I don't think I need to explain how useful this is. If you want to learn about deontological criminal justice system, click on this one, go into his matter file is what it's called. If you want to learn about free will, or if you want to learn about free trade or inflation or labor rights, like clearly this is pretty relevant to some of your topics. It'll give you a pretty in-depth actually explanation of all of the things that you need to know, all of the basic facts that you might need to know. So screw like a topic analysis. This is where you should go if you want to learn more about the world in the context of debate. And he's just done it again as well. You can see he did like a 600-page one for the last Worlds tournament. So yeah, clearly there's a lot in here. If you want to learn about like any country in the context of debate, for example, you're like digging into more IR. Like he's got like 100 pages on Panama or something. So yeah, you will have more than you could ever know what to do with. And there are some other similar resources in here as well that really, I think, get the job done if you want to go really hard into learning about the world or learning all about theory, for example, or learning all about, policy debate things. Like they're all in here. Finally, there's a part on lecture slides. So a lot of these are lectures that I've given at camps, for example, that I've just put the slides in here. It's not complete yet. I have a lot to add from the work that I've done here in Taiwan, and also other slides that I happen to have, for example, like APTA lectures and also the slides from my YouTube videos, which are already in the descriptions, but I'll centralize them in here as well. So more to come here, but this already will have a lot of the resources that you might see at camps. And then a bunch of other documents like we've got notes from different camps, we've got example cases, we've got theory, back files, things like that. The third and final section of this document is a section on how to improve. It's broken into a few different sections. The first one is using this document because like this is a ton of information. It's 60 pages already and it's going to grow, hopefully. And so it is divided up into a few different sections, like based on how much experience you think you have as a debater or as a judge, because eventually I hope this will also become useful to judges and coaches and people like that. Then it'll tell you what the most useful parts of this are and which ones you should really give your attention to the most. So you're not just like, drinking out of a fire hose when you're trying to digest all of the information in here. It also has a list of drills that you can do. And then I've started adding some articles that are just like my personal philosophy on debate, which, might be interesting. I think hopefully it will be somewhat helpful to start having deeper conversations about like the way that we relate to debate and the way that we relate to other people in debate as well, which are conversations that unfortunately I think get avoided often at camps, even though they might be even more important than anything else in this document, in fact. Um, I've also got permission from Alec Bolton, who is a very, very good former PF debater and also PF coach, to put some of his resources in here, including a letter to public forum coaches that you might find interesting. And I've got like an article about gendered retention factors in competitive debate that I researched a few years ago in here. So it's sort of a hodgepodge of a lot of interesting things that hopefully people will find useful or interesting. And this is a section I'm also meaning to add a lot to. So one thing that I'm going to add here is a lot of advice from other coaches that are not just me. So I plan to interview a lot of different coaches, ask around for what tips people have for how to get better at debate the quickest, how to relate to debate, personal philosophies about debate. I think this is really like hopefully will become a rich treasure trove that people who are even very, very experienced, who think that, you're already at the top of the national circuit, you can learn a lot from this about how you can debate in a way that you will reflect on later as a very positive experience and make the community a better community for other people as well. So there's a lot here. I'm going to add a lot more in waves over, the next few months. Um, and please spread this. Like the intention of this is to connect this to as many, hopefully beginners, but really anyone as possible, so that people have a place where they can learn from. And also, secondly, like first, please spread this as much as you can. But secondly, I want to make sure that this is as good of a document and as comprehensive as possible. So if you think anything in here is wrong or not wrong, maybe, but you think it lacks context, like you could update it, shout out to me. I have my email linked at the top, or you could put a comment on this video or any of my YouTube videos. I think I might also make like an accompanying lecture series on this channel for this document, like maybe couple videos for each section that really explain more in depth, A, how to use each section, and two, and B, like explaining each section a little bit more, like what I really mean. And so if anyone has any questions too about anything that's in here, please ask and I can maybe clarify it in the document as well so that it's more helpful for people who are reading it for the first time. So yeah, that's all for now. I'm gonna put the link in the description and I'll probably also put it in a few other like communities. So hopefully word gets around that this is a resource that people can use. And if you know any like debate teams or partnerships or people who are struggling to like start up for the first time, maybe this will be something that's helpful for them. I will also probably add a section about how to create your own debate team because I have a little bit of experience in that as well. Um, so yeah, I'm excited to share this and I'm excited to polish it and complete it. Um, and if anyone has anything that they want to add or anything that they would like to see in here in general, please let me know. Okay, bye bye.